asking them what their vision is for the future of the children in the community, and then making the time and effort for a team to do some really good thinking about how to develop a plan for the future of the children. And there's nothing more important for a superintendent and a leadership team than to have clear direction. And again, that's a really critical role that you play as a board, is to set that vision, set that direction, and then trust us to work with, with our staff and our community to carry out that plan to get there. So, you can tell I get excited about this because it helps us know how to walk. When we're doing this work in the community, which is really challenging. And right now, the timing could not be better because it gives us a chance to hear what we should focus on, and put our energy and resources into at a time when, things are a little bit like this right now. And it's a chance to, again, organize it and align our resources and our energy and push for that. So again, I commend you for that. It's a privilege to work with Jerry. Jerry was my mentor. If you remember back then, in my first years of the superintendency, and it's a pleasure to do this with Ginger and the North Carolina School District, who we've been kind of staying in contact together through all these changes that have been going on for the last couple of years. So it's really neat to be here in this process at this time with you. So thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Ginger. School board members, my first comments are really to you. When I think about the most important volunteer roles in any community, in my opinion, it is being a member of the public school system board. And collectively, you folks have had 42 years of service that you have given to this community on this particular role. And this is a part of your role that I think helps move us from being managers of a school district to being leaders. And it's so easy to fall into the manager role because you have these day-to-day things that are always coming forward. And sometimes there's agendas of things that have come from OSBA and some policies that change and so forth. But this is different. This is really different. This is legacy building work that you do. And my own background is I was a high school science teacher for 14 years. Then I went into administration in the Eugene School District in charge of secondary schools. And then on to Redmond as superintendent. And then I retired from the Beaverton School District as superintendent. But some of my friends, I kind of felt in their retirement, they were really interested in grandizing their happiness, and that's okay. But being in public education for so long, I just wanted more of a purpose. So I got lucky enough to be appointed to the state school board, and I've been on the state school board for 7 years now. We really enjoy that work. And then the other thing I do is this work across the state, and I work mainly with small school districts. So I brought some of the strategic plans, LeGrand, Prairie City, just finished with Jervis, and then a nearby school district. And this is Culver, 600 students near where I live in Bend. Just finished with the Dallas School District, not too far away. And then here's Mount Angel. So those are the kind of size. The biggest district I've worked with is Albany. And the reason that I like smaller school districts is you can get your arms around them. You can really be able to make changes. When I was in Beaverton, we had 52 schools. We had a little over 5,000 staff members, close to 45,000 students. And the strategic planning work there was really, really difficult because of the size. And so when I started this work, I really wanted to be in districts that I thought we could do meetings like this, get our administrators involved, the community involved, and make change. And so I recently was at an OSBA Zoom meeting, and it was on governance of the school district. And I'd like to read to you what came out of that meeting about high performance school boards and those that do not perform well. And what you're going to see is there's a lot of components of strategic planning in the high performing school boards, and in the low performing school boards, there really isn't any. Let me read this to you. This comes from both the research and the literature. So for high performing boards, they set clear expectations and set goals. Of course, that's what we're going to do with our strategic plan. They create a vision. That's what we're going to do with our strategic plan. They commit to a vision of high expectations for students and set goals toward that vision. And of course, we'll be doing that again. They hold the system accountable. And I want to talk to you about how a board can effectively do that. Not that you don't, but I'd just like to give you some thoughts. They monitor progress and take corrective action using data. They're data savvy. They embrace and monitor data even when it's very negative towards the district. And they're accountability driven, focused on policy and not operations. So when we look at the high performing boards, you see it that they're at that much higher level than management. They're really into the visionary leadership. And we want to help you create a plan that'll allow this really good school district to maybe take one more step higher and come closer to being able to achieve what the most important things our community says about public education. And we'll be surveying the community to get that information. Let's talk about low performing boards and see what they're known for. Their meetings are less orderly. We've seen some of that, not here. Less time is spent on student achievement. Members seek to advance their own agendas. Less effective working relationships with one another. Less reliance on the superintendent for advice and input. Less focus on policy items. They refer to external pressures as the main reason for lack of student success. They micromanage, especially the superintendent. And they use anecdotes and personal information to drive decisions instead of data. And I'm sorry to say that we have seen a number of those kind of things happening in the last couple of years at a higher level than we've ever seen in our state before. And I've been involved in this for a lot of years. I've never seen 2 years like we have. And so I believe that where those things are happening, we're not certainly following the ideas that research says about high performing boards. Here's another little piece that I wanted to mention to you. And that is the roles and responsibilities. So with the roles and responsibilities of the superintendent, there's two main areas that come into the strategic plan. Of the 5 main roles identified in the research, one is hiring staff. The second is turning priorities into action. So when you decide on the final product of this strategic plan, we're going to do the heavy lifting work for you, and then we're going to bring it to you piece by piece for you to look at and make changes as you wish. But The superintendent then is responsible to carry out those priorities. You help set them, the superintendent carries them out. The superintendent implements policies and develops administrative regulations, plans expenditures, manages the budget, and reports progress on the strategic plan to the board. 2 of the 5 areas then of the most important responsibilities of the superintendent come directly from the research saying that those 2 pieces are part of the strategic plan. How about the board? The 5 top areas are hires and evaluates the superintendent, of course. The next one is sets the district priorities. So that's what we are going to be working on with the strategic plan review. The board adopts policy, oversees the budget, and then the next one monitors district priorities progress. And board members, so often we take the time to create these strategic plans, and then they are not monitored. They are not, there is not accountability measures behind it. And it's almost like, okay, we've created the plan, and now kind of the district goes on its own without this constant monitoring and adjusting to make the plan real and to make it a living document. And so I want to work with you on how we can help that happen. So OSBA Research in that regard. I have a handout that I gave to you that I'd like you to take a look at. It's the one that says strategic plan achievement considerations. And it probably is the one right below your agenda. And when you pull that one out, which is on the screen, I do want to let you see some of these. And I think Ginger I may have sent some to Ginger earlier that she showed to you. But here's some different ones. When I worked with the group earlier today that we call the Strategic Planning Committee, and Glenn was kind enough to be there for the full meeting, I said to them, I want to tell you about why strategic plans tend not to be successful. Let's take a look right at the start of what keeps these things from being implemented. Using research and the literature, if you look at that very first one, I call it the 80% factor. And what I mean by that is that the research shows that only 1 out of 5 private or public sector organizations actually achieve the goals in their strategic plans. So what I was saying to the group that's going to be doing the heavy lifting for you, the chances are we won't be successful if we follow the normal patterns that most organizations do. And again, I borrow a lot from the private sector. I really rely a lot on business ideas for my strategic plan work. So I'm not just talking about public sector or school districts. I'm also talking about big companies, and it's as true for them as it is for smaller school districts. We've got a 1 in 5 chance of actually implementing the goals that we come up with. But we've got some ideas that can keep us from being in that 20%. And they're the things that follow. So this particular process is much lengthier than most. We started on it today. You won't have the final document until August. And most school districts don't take nearly that long. What are they missing? They are missing ownership, because sometimes the way it happens is there'll be a meeting like this, a work session, with some administrators and maybe an outside consultant. Maybe they do 2 or 3 or 4 work sessions. The strategic plan has been put in place, but there's no ownership with the people who are supposed to carry it out. And if they don't have ownership, they're not going to carry it out. So we're going to try to get that ownership both from community members and staff members as we move through this process, so they can see their fingerprints on it. We've got to get that ownership. The other thing that's a little different about this process, and you'll have to decide whether you want to do this. I will recommend it to you. So many times, it may be true here, and I'm not criticizing it, but I want to show you a difference. The school board meets in August. They come up with the school board goals, maybe 5, 6. The superintendent then is asked to put her goals together and bring them for you for approval. There may be some similarities and maybe not. The superintendent usually asks each principal to have building strategic goals. And many of the principals, and in most of our evaluation systems, it says each staff member should have goals. Well, that's great for a lot of goals around the district. It doesn't work very well if you're trying to have a system make great big changes, difficult challenges, because everybody has their own set of goals. They're not rowing the boat together. So what I will submit to you is, in districts that do achieve the goals that they decide, there's one set of goals for the entire district. The board doesn't have a different set. The principals don't have a different set. The superintendent doesn't. I'm not sure how you've done that in the past. I just wanted to mention that to you as a possibility. That's that alignment within. So we talked a little bit about this. It's one thing to identify and put together one of these strategic plans, like this guy right here that comes from Culver. And they were so happy when they completed this. This is a 600-person school district. I live in Bend, right outside where I live. But that was the easy part. The difficult part is in the implementation. So it's one thing to identify what the goals are and put together one of these. The real hard work is implementing it. And when you go back to the ownership that we talked about, if the employees don't have ownership in creating this, more than likely they couldn't tell you what the mission statement was. They wouldn't have an idea what the vision is. They could never recite the goals. And neither could you if you have your own goals and she has her own goals, and someone asks you, what are the 3 district strategic goals? You might not be able to answer that either. But if you're all working together, I think you can. And you might hear in my voice, I'm a little dogmatic about this. That's because at the start of this process, I want to tell you why they don't work and see if I can steer us away from the problems that keep them from not happening. The next one is accountability. So I would, it's probably not right for me not to have talked to Ginger about this before. But if I were sitting in your seats, my superintendent's evaluation would have a huge piece on her ability or his ability to carry out the strategic plan and what kind of progress we made. So if the strategic plan is really what we're trying to use to become better than we are right now, why shouldn't we hold the superintendent's head to the grindstone and have that as something that we evaluate that person on? And if they're not doing well with it and the strategic plan is not working well, maybe it's because the strategic plan wasn't monitored well enough along the way. Or there could be a possibility that the superintendent just hasn't paid the kind of attention to it that maybe we feel should be done. So we're going to talk about accountability measures, and it really rests with you. You're the arbitrators on that. If the strategic plan isn't successful, to a large degree, it comes right back here of accountability. How hard are you asking the questions about the progress on the things that you determine are the most important things we should accomplish? Unfortunately, leadership changes are lethal for strategic plans. And more often than not, a new superintendent coming into a district really kind of disregards, and I've seen this happen so often, kind of disregards the strategic plan that was in place. Why? They had no ownership with it. Also, they have their own ideas that they'd like to come in with. That's not what we want. We want to create a strategic plan that if the school board chair changes and we have 3 new members on the board and a new superintendent, this plan can keep going. We don't have to create a brand new one. We don't have to stop in midstream what we've been working on hiring for, putting money behind, and all of a sudden start over again. And here's what I see happen. We have a strategic plan in place, maybe a good one. And there's a change in leadership. And so the goals that we had in place are not accomplished. And all of a sudden we have a new set of goals. And then those goals are not accomplished. And then we have another new set of goals. That's where stability in the leadership really can mitigate those circumstances. And so my hope to you is that you'll stay on the board through this 3-year process, see this out, and don't let this woman get away from you. And we will be able to deal with that leadership change kind of nightmare to strategic plans. You are going to have your budget committee coming up in the spring where all of you meet, and then the same number of committee members, and you draw up the financial plans for the new school year. What I want to ask from you now is that you put aside money to help us accomplish the task on the strategic plan that we have for the next new school year. And, you know, it's not like you're going to have a bunch of new money, but it's the money that you have that you use to put to new purposes. So even if you don't have new money and we have a plan that takes money, we're saying to you and you're saying to the budget committee, we're going to find this in the budget. These are going to be the most important things we're doing. We're going to stop doing some things. We're going to shift money because we don't have a bunch of new money, but we spent a lot of time working with the community, trying to figure out what the most important things we can do to improve. Here they are. And in the first year, we're going to need to allocate money toward that. Each one of you know what unfunded mandates are and how much we in education dislike those things coming from the legislature to us. And it says, now you're going to have a gifted and talented program, but by the way, you won't have any new money for it. You need to implement. That doesn't work. It does not work. So there's some hard decisions to make. You have to fund what we're going to come up with. And it's going to start this spring. It's going to start really soon. And then the final one on this sheet of things that we're going to try to avoid. The final one is the importance of it all. At the board level, in most large private sector corporations, they hold the CEO to either creating a new strategic plan or carrying out the one that is there. But they the board members are also heavily involved in seeing this as their most important work. You see it as her most important work, but it also has to be yours. And I can say that with a number of boards, you know, after maybe the first year, it still doesn't seem to be as important as it could be and as it should be. And I'm before you now as we start the process to say, I hope throughout this 3-year period where we really work hard to give you the very best that we can, and we really get ownership, and what we're asking makes really good sense, that you will have the feeling of this really is important work. This isn't management. This is leadership. And I want to help make it happen. So starting out, I wanted to go over these items with you. And I'd like to pause for a second here and ask you if you could give me any comments or questions, or tell me how you have been working with past strategic plans in the district, and how, you know, how successful they were. And, you know, maybe if there were some areas where they weren't as successful, what you might want to say about that. And I do realize, I think 2 of you have only been on the board since the last one expired, so you might not be able to say too much about that. But give me any thoughts or ideas on these topics here as to why a great deal of organizations aren't successful.
Well, I'll start us.
Thank you very much, Krista.
We have moving targets and moving data points. So every time we get to a spot where we know we're in a problem, we start calculating our data points different. So there's
Excellent.
never consistency where
Excellent.
we could see actual gap issues and improvement, or less improvement within those.
Mhm. Very good. That's a great practice and very helpful in this work. What else?
Well, Heidi, I will say that I was part of a strategic planning process over 10 years ago.
Mhm.
And that was really a great effort. We had really good community involvement from staff on up, board level and community. And that led us, I think that was probably one of the important factors that led us to the eventual passing of our bond
Mhm.
and redoing our facilities. So that was a great accomplishment that came from that. The one area that I've always felt that we missed the boat on in our work is having to do around goals.
Yeah.
And I've come to hate the word goals
Mhm.
because we spent all this time, all these meetings, all these hours developing goals, and we really don't revisit them or know how to measure our success against them.
Yes.
And then so I really liked what you said about getting rid of board goals, superintendent goals, you know, goals should be the same throughout the whole district, one
They
set of
should.
goals that everybody should be working on. And I really like that. And I kind of like the idea of calling them priorities instead of goals. Maybe that's because I'm really
Mhm.
have PTSD around the word goals or something, but I mean, yeah, so anyway, I appreciate that.
And Heidi, you've been on the board for a number of years, so
Yeah.
you've seen these processes come and go. I think your views are really important to us. And as we come and present different parts of the plan to you folks, I hope you'll speak out and give us your thoughts and ideas. Thank you. What else? What else about why organizations don't necessarily achieve their strategic plans after they create them? Or thoughts that you have, or questions that you might have?
Well, I'll echo again what Heidi says with, you know, where I work in the private sector, we have the lean methodology where we have our mother A3 and everything feeds that success from the bottom up and the top down.
Mhm.
They're all aligned. So it's never like completely different goals. And that has been really confusing to me. Like, how can we meet 70 different goals
Yeah.
in the district?
Yeah.
So it's like, it just seems natural to have that flow with your prioritization.
Yeah. There's a Chinese proverb that says, he who chases two rabbits doesn't catch either one. And in organizations, and especially school districts, those districts that have 10 goals, they tend not to accomplish any of them. I have found 3 goals, right around 3 works best. They're tough. They're multi-year. They take funding. They're not easy to get ownership for. But I will caution the committee that we're working on when we bring you goals to really focus. And I'll try, and if you look at those that I've handed out to you, I don't think there's anyone that has more than 4. And if I'm not mistaken, Mount Angel just has 1. They just have 1, and theirs was a 5-year goal. So limiting the goals is really helpful. And the difficult part is choosing what the most important things are to put our resources, our energy, our hiring, our policies behind. Anything else on this? And again, I know that there are times when I get on my high horse about this, but I've just seen too much good work creating the documents that you had in front of you and then tripping up on these kinds of things and not carrying them out. The last thing I want to do is spend 6 or 7 months with you and then 2 years later see that, you know, we're not making progress. So I'll try really, really hard that when my time is over, I've tried to work with you and the team and Ginger and Bill to leave something in place that can make you successful. Thanks for your understanding on this. The next item I want to go over is the timeline that we'll be working on. And it's the sheet that you have that says North Marion District Timeline, the specific monthly tasks. This guy right here. I want to spend some time going over that because I want you to see the process that we're going to use. And also, I think you'll find some of the things that we talked about on this last sheet will be addressed in here. So if you look at January 18th, you'll see that I will be coming back and doing a focus group with you on the questions that we're going to ask the community. And we're working on those questions right now. We started working with them with the strategic planning group today. And we're going to take those questions all over the community in a variety of ways to get the word out and get people's thoughts and ideas. So when I see you again in about a month, I'll be holding that focus group with you, and it'll just be an hour, just a one hour meeting. And then it will be happening throughout the community. We'll gather all that information and we'll put together a focus group report, which will inform all of our work from then forward. It's a way to try to get ownership and creativity and innovative ideas from the community. And we talked today about how we can get the voices of those people who usually don't come to our meetings and who don't have a chance to give us their thoughts and ideas. So we're going to make a real effort to get out and get that information. And also the student investment report that was completed in the district in 2019 has a lot of good ideas and data. And we're going to borrow from that as well. So anything that's existing that we can use, we will, to give us a database. The first thing that we are going to bring to you will be the district beliefs and values. And if you look at February 8th, you see that we'll be meeting with the planning team and we will be putting together the core values for your consideration when you see that, when it says for your consideration, each part of the strategic plan that we're doing, we are trying to do the heavy lifting for you and then bring you our best work and then ask you to modify it and make it better with whatever improvements you would suggest. So every step along the way, each month, you'll be receiving information from us, building the plan over time. And I'll encourage Ginger and Bill to have some of our committee members come and present to you as a part of that. There's parents, there's religious leaders in the group, there are business people, there's students, and so it'll be nice to have them come and communicate with you on our work. In March, we'll take the core values and then create our mission statement. We'll look at what we have had in place. Certainly, we don't want to throw everything out that's been done. We want to look at that and use parts of it, or if they still fit, we'll use the whole thing. But the mission statement is, what is the purpose of the district? Why does the district exist? Why did the foremothers and forefathers of this district decide that a public education should exist and be here? A mission talks about our purpose. What is our purpose as an organization? It's hard to write. You only can use a few words so that they're memorable. And you would like to have them unique so that not every one of the 197 school districts in the state could take your mission statement and use it themselves. We'll try to get that uniqueness in so it fits our community. Very difficult to do. Then we'll use the values, the mission, and we will build a vision statement. And this is the future that we are striving for. So if we were able to completely satisfy our district goals, that would mean that we have achieved the vision. The vision is 3 years down the road. What is it that you would like to see us accomplish that we are not now? That we will put resources behind, effort, hiring, etc. We'll take those three parts, the values, the mission, and the vision, and we will create the strategic goals for your consideration. And this is the most important part of the process. There were some good mentions today about possible goals already. So people on our particular committee have some fairly good ideas of areas that they feel as though we should strive for. But of course, we'll slowly move to that, building each piece at a time. And then on May 26th, we changed the group. So that would mean that the strategic planning group would have fulfilled its responsibility. They will help bring to you the core values, the mission, the vision, and the goals. And then I'll ask Ginger and Bill to put together a group of probably the best implementers of changes within the system from being in the system. Curriculum folks, assessment folks, HR people, principals, and so forth. So that the goals need to have a look from people who are actually doing the work, working with the students, working with the teachers. So that would be a little bit different group. It will be a smaller group. And they're going to work on two things: performance indicators and metrics. If we have a goal, for example, let's say graduation, that we want to increase the graduation rate, we have to figure out how to do it. So the goal doesn't tell you how to do it. It says what you'd like to do. So we will put indicators below each one of the goals. And for example, a very common one is, one of the things we know is that children who do not read at grade level, kindergarten through third grade, have a much lower graduation rate than students that do. So if we have a goal of increasing our graduation rate, we need to look at the system as to where we can make changes to make that happen. So there's those performance indicators. I usually like to have 3 under each goal. Those are the things that you'll be looking at to measure if we're making progress. For each performance indicator, we have a metric. So first we start with the goal, performance indicators of how to do it, and then how we measure if the performance indicators are being successful. Here's an example. Let's say we would like to increase the graduation rate and might come up with a percentage like moving from 80% to 95%. We would like to see that go up 5% a year for 3 years. Performance indicator says we want our children by the end of the 3rd grade to be reading at grade level. We take a benchmark. Let's say right now it's 70% of students by the time they end 3rd grade are reading at grade level. And so we would say, well, in the first year of implementing this, what is a realistic expectation of increase in students' reading ability by the end of the 3rd grade to be at grade level? And you know you're putting resources behind it. You might even be hiring some specialists for it. You may be looking at some new curriculum, some professional development. All that takes money. That's where those resources we talked about. And then we measure it at the end of the first year. We're hoping to say have increased that by 10%. So we're looking, we start, our benchmark is 70%. We're looking at the end of the first year for 80%, the end of the 2nd year for 90%, the end of the 3rd year, maybe we talk about 95%. And you are regularly testing it every quarter, every 4 months or 3 months, we're getting reports in on how we're doing. So that's the performance indicator and the metrics, and we bring in school people to work more on that in our first committee. After that, I'll be writing the strategic plan like what you have in front of you as a first draft. And then I'm going to turn that over to Ginger and Bill, and they're going to go through it and they're going to improve what I have. And then it comes to you. You look at it, you make the changes you want, and then we send it out to be professionally printed. We put it on the website, and Ginger starts making presentations around the community, certainly to every school, businesses and so forth, and we're on to our first year. One thing that's different about the way I'd like to work with you is, yes, we have a 3-year plan, but it's really 3 one-year plans. So in the first year, we'll look at what the goals are, but we'll only write our plan for what we feel we can accomplish in the first year. And at the end of the first year, we will make modifications as to what we think we can accomplish in the 2nd year. So there could be new performance indicators, maybe even some new metrics that go along with that. And in rare situations, possibly even a new goal. So when we fell into this pandemic, most school districts had in what they were working with some new things to consider. And, you know, a goal working with social emotional intelligence and things of that nature were coming forward that weren't there before. If we don't make changes from year to year, then we don't have a living document. And if we do make changes, you don't ever have to go through this whole process again. You just keep going from year to year, looking at what you have and adding in what isn't there and changing what may not be working and modifying it. So by September, the process will be done. You will hopefully have improved it, and you will have approved it, and it will be out ready to go. Lots of lots of information there. But that gives you a real good roadmap of where we're headed and when you'll be receiving different parts of the plan. Let me stop there and see if you have any questions at all about the process or the timeline.
I have questions. So I've only been involved in one of these before, so that's my frame of
Was that
reference.
in this district?
Yes.
Okay.
How many people are actually on the planning team?
20, I believe, Ginger. And they represent a whole lot of different areas. Between you and Bill, can you indicate what the different interest groups are that we have, you know, for example, students, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, Rita's back there, she's on the committee. The OSBA president for the classified staff, the UNAV president, Mark John. We have a staff member from each building. Some of them represent also special education, some regular instruction. We have principals from each building. We have a community member. Connie was here today for Gary Grossen, GK Machine. Craig Johnson from the faith community. Sarah Wilson Hughes for the parents. Then we have Ruby and Raphael for the family liaison outreach, and Irma is the district level administrator because she does the equity title programs, diversity work, and the bilingual teacher pathway program. And did I miss anything, Bill? I mentioned her already. And she's here, so. So it's a little bit of everything, and everyone understands not only their individual contributions, but also who they represent and kind of their task in hand. Another component.
You might mention we had board members.
Yes, yes, and the board members. Thank you. And then we also have the empty chair, which are you going to talk about that?
Yeah,
Okay.
so I have a little placard that I put up that's kind of like what you have for your nameplates there. And we have an empty chair in the room, and the placard says the empty chair. And what it means is we want the voices of those people that we normally don't hear, that normally don't come to our meetings. So we look at that, it's always visible for us, and it's supposed to represent those people whose voices we need in our work, but they're not here to tell us. Let's see if we can help with that. And as people make comments, I ask them to consider, what about the people who aren't in this room? What might they say about this? As we're looking at beliefs and values, what would some of those people, what would the Hispanic mother who's working 2 jobs, has 3 or 4 children and no transportation, say about what kind of value she would want in her public school system? So yeah, that's the empty chair idea.
So if I could continue with my question
Please
here.
do.
So in my previous involvement, the whole board at that point was involved in, there were more people involved. It was probably about closer to 40 people. that
Okay.
were involved in meetings. So looking through this timeline that you've given us, it feels to me, I'm just going to be really blunt.
Good.
It feels to me that you're bringing ideas to us and we are rubber stamping. The board really has no involvement in this whole plan, with the exception of one board member.
Mhm.
I don't see where I'm involved in this plan other than rubber stamping whatever you bring.
Well, I wouldn't want you to rubber stamp it, because then we would not get involvement from you. So what we're trying to do is to break it into small portions and say, you know, this is our best work. Now it's your turn to work with it. So instead of you having to go out and survey and read all the survey comments and then decide in meetings what you feel as though the community's values are, we're trying to do that for you and then say, now it's your time for involvement.
So do boards typically feel like they have the ownership
They-
part of this then?
They feel like they have ownership, but there's different levels of it. For example, I've worked with districts where we couldn't get a board member to come to our individual meetings. Either they just couldn't break away from work or their family situation. And so in the meetings that we had, like Glenn came today, a 4-hour meeting, we didn't have the board representation. In others, the superintendent has had to say, you know, I don't want 3 board members in the meeting. That's going to be too much. Let's go with 1 or 2. And some groups, all the board members want to be involved. Well, you know, I'm not going to say who can be involved or not. That's really up to you folks. If they wanted to be more involvement, they sure could. We can't, you know, have more than 3 people at a meeting, but we could add people to our group if you'd like. That's possible. But we don't want any rubber stamping. That won't get your ownership, and you will not see it as the most important work you're doing if that happens.
I will echo a little bit of what Heidi's saying.
Okay.
I do feel that this is a little bit of a rubber stamping process, the way it is presented, and I know that's not your intention,
Right.
but I am a little bit concerned for the really in-depth ownership that you want.
Mhm.
If we're only to approve and we're not seeing like the actual Frank data, the Frank surveys, all those components of it.
Mhm.
Because the culture has changed a lot in the last 2 years, and board members are held up to a higher standard.
Yes.
So I will appreciate what Heidi says and kind of follow up, that I do get a little bit of that feeling here.
Okay. What should we do about that? Because certainly the meetings that we have are open to board members at any time. The data that we're looking at is going to be put in a comprehensive report. So I didn't bring one with me, but we also do a focus group report where we take all the data and put it together. And then we use that to create the plan from. You would have that, but I'm open to anything that you'd like to do. What I really want to do is facilitate it in such a way that you will be successful. And I don't want to decide for you what you should do. Yes.
So can you explain a little bit more about the data that you just said and how we might access that?
Yeah. So what we will have a survey that will have a number of focus groups throughout the community where we will come to the group, we will take notes from the group, and we will ask the same questions throughout the community. We'll put all of that together in a report, and then the report will indicate areas of trends, what the trends are. And from those areas, we create the goals are going to be a big part of that, because there's going to be a question asking about the goals, and also the core beliefs and values. The mission statement and the vision statement kind of flow from that, but the goals and values really are a big part of that work. Those documents are usually about 13 pages of data, and you will have that. We're hoping to have that for you by February 8th.
So that would be part of what we receive at that meeting?
Yes.
Or prior to that meeting?
If we can finish it in time. It's a tight timeline.
Yeah.
for us.
So I guess that leads to my next question of when you have, like on the February 8th proposed timeline, so consultant meetings planning team from 1:30 to 5:30, and then to complete a draft for board consideration. So do we actually meet with you that day also, following that meeting?
I won't be coming to each of those meetings unless for some reason Ginger would be able to put it together to where I could do the planning group and then meet with the board. But what my idea was for people on the committee to come and present to you and talk to you about why the choices were made and answer your questions and ideas and help you to decide what you'd like to change and make different.
Okay, so that would be following. This is essentially the work session of the committee. And then we would receive data along with whatever the committee has come up with.
And the way it was presented to the group. And remember that we had one of every type of representative of the group. The reason for one was so that we could create ownership and commitment by having a representative from each voice, that no one group would have more representation than the other. And then that way the board would receive the information from the community, because the board speaks with one voice. We have too many of one type or too many of another type, then we don't have the opportunity to create the ownership of each one of the members that's in that group. And I think that that's a good framework. You also presented it as my work, your work is to create the information, put it together and give it to the board, and you told everyone. And the board will work it with it and will adjust it to things that the board thinks is the right way in which to do that. So he told them that you are not understanding it, that you will work with the information that the community develops and he presents, and that you will craft it for coming up with the board's statement on each one of those things.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not a rubber stamp problem.
They will be spending 24 hours on the work that they're doing for you. And then the implementation team will spend another 8 hours. So that's 32 hours of background to bring to you. Heidi?
Yeah, well, see, now I'm getting old and I've forgotten what I was gonna
And
say.
I'm older than you are, so don't worry. It'll come back.
I have a comment if you want to think about it.
Yeah, go
It-
ahead.
it'll
'cause
come back.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm gonna also be very frank that at least since my time on the board has been total chaos, that's just a given. I have had a very hard time getting information in front of me so that I have enough thoughtful time to review it,
Mhm.
make comments and questions, and then we can have productive meetings afterwards. And so how will that work here so that I have more than 45 minutes to read a 20-page document?
I'll tell
And
you.
so back and
Diane,
forth.
when do you send the board packet out for the next board meeting coming? What day does it go out?
Typically like the Friday before the board meeting.
And what day is the board meeting the next week?
Monday.
Monday. Okay, so that's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Are you finding that those days are enough with the board packet for you to feel as though you can prepare for Monday?
No, they're not complete.
No, right. That, I mean, we get incomplete data or incomplete documentation, but then also I'm asking people questions over the weekend, which I think
Yeah.
is,
Problem.
I mean, I work over the weekend because I choose to. I
Yes.
don't think it's the right setup for us to assume that our administrators are working over the weekend because we have questions because we have a board
Okay.
meeting. That is, to me, not the reason why we do that. And so, since we're starting this lengthy process where there's gonna be a lot of back and forth, I suggest we do it some other way so that we can have communication time before
Okay,
and not on Sunday night.
I know, excuse me, please go ahead.
I was just gonna say that we should ask Diane about what prevents her from being able to get the information out earlier, because she works very hard to get the information as soon as possible. Tell us
Well,
about
I'm
it.
not the owner of the information. That's part of the problem. So
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the information from other people.
Yeah.
I was just thinking with the strategic planning, if that information is coming from you and I
It
got
will.
your information in a timely manner, I
You will.
can send it out
Diane,
right away.
You and I, you saw how we were working and how well we worked together. See, let's say on one of these meetings, it says March 8th, the group will finish the mission statement and then it will be sent on to the board to approve. I can get that to you within 2 days or 3 days after they make that decision. You can have that separately from the board packet. If we want to separate these processes, we can. Here's what I'm doing with the group. I said to them, you are going to do the heavy lifting for Ginger, myself, and Bill. For example, today, we asked them to give us thoughts about how we could get more people involved in taking the surveys. And we had them do some work and write up some ideas. I'm gonna take that and work on it. I'm gonna give it to the two of them. The three of us will then put our ideas together and bring it back to the group. So that's kind of what we're working with them, similar to the way we're working with you. But I don't need to be married to the board packet at all. Because once I have the chart pack paper that they worked on, once I get home, I can start working on that tomorrow and the next day and get it back to them, you know, within 3 days. And so we can do that with you. Just because it says that for the board approval, it doesn't mean that you are gonna have that on Friday before your board meeting. I can separate it out. The stuff's important. So for example, let's talk about the strategic goals. When the committee finishes them, then they're gonna come to you. I don't want them to come to you 1 or 2 days before the board meeting that you're going to be looking at them. I'd like you to have time. You may want to call Ginger up, or you may want to give me a call, or you definitely would want to talk to Glenn, who will have been in those meetings. So that's one thing we could mitigate. What else can we do that will help? I don't want a rubber stamp.
I
That's not
definitely
gonna-
want to see the raw data. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just me. I would like to have the option to look at it.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, all of the raw data that we collect will be made available to anybody that wants to see it. I'll be compiling it, but that raw data, I think what we'll do is just have Diane have that available.
Yeah, I'm with you, Christy. I very much appreciate the data and the research components of it. And previously, when we've been asked to make large decisions, a lot of them, it gives you heartburn because they want you to make it in a quick amount of time with a quick turnaround. And I think that's really my concern. Like, if we're really digging into this to make sure that it's a strategic plan, I want it to be well thought out. I want to have time to ponder it and make sure I'm making a wise decision for all the students,
Right.
not just off the cuff by the 20 people who got into a room.
Mhm. I hear you. I want that too. I definitely want that.
So this is what I'm trying to understand too, is that, because these goals will become, from my understanding, you know, and this is how, in an ideal process, these are gonna become the board goals too.
That's my recommendation.
And
to
so if you're asking us to own these goals as our own goals, but we're really not in part of the process of developing these goals.
you. Mhm.
Some other people are, I know we have Glenn and he'll do a great job of representing us, but I mean, you know, so like, I'm talking about for me personally. I'm not part of the process. I'm not hearing the discussion and the dynamics that are part of forming where you got to that point. You're bringing me just the statement.
Mhm.
But I don't know what the discussion was, that I can look at the data, like they're saying, but I mean, I might not know what was happening in the room that helped you come to this decision.
Mhm.
And so that's why it's like, then I don't feel connected to it. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yes, it
And-
does.
And I'm not eager to go out and sell it to people. It's like, well, this is what they came up with. And so I guess that's where we're at. And I've been around too long and I'm just telling you how I feel.
Well, that's what we want.
So,
Exactly.
yeah, and I don't know what the process is. I'm not asking to be, you know, I'm not saying that all 7 of us need to be going to every single meeting, and spending hours doing this. I don't know, I'm just expressing my thoughts right now. I don't
Well,
have
I
any
think
answers.
they're the perfect thing to bring up at the start of the process. And I think you make an excellent point. We have to figure out a way that the 7 board members feel totally involved and with ownership around what comes forward in this plan. What I'd like to ask you to do is reserve judgment until we bring you the first item. which would be the core values and beliefs, because along with that, you're going to get the raw data, and you'll also get a focus group report. You can see the work that the committee does, and then you can look at those and make any adjustments you want and see what you think. And if that doesn't work and you're not feeling as though there's really a lot of ownership, then I think Ginger, Bill, and I need to get together and determine, how we can mitigate that. One thing I've learned from COVID is you have to be flexible. You have to change. You have to be willing to, put plans aside and do new plans. And I'm very willing to do that.
Jerry, can I maybe share a comment?
Please do.
The board's why you're interested. Yeah, this is a really important conversation. It's a leadership conversation. And I know that it's some of the people, some of them, Jack Reeves and Lynn Reeves and others, who I learned strategic planning with. One of the most important pieces of mentorship and professional development and leadership development that they provided for us was leadership process. And it's that notion of it's important for you to own it, but in order for it to get done, it's more important for the community to own it, and the people who are actually really going to be in it, doing the work, to feel like that it belongs to them, that they generated it, that this is our community's strategic plan and our vision for the future of our children. And so actually engaging people in processes that bring them along to feel like they own it and they had a large hand in development. It's exactly the same thing you're saying right now. We want that for the community who will be engaged in this process. And it won't just be the 20 people, because those 20 people will be charged with getting input and feedback from 20 other people each. So it will have a large level of engagement by the time it gets it starts to get into some of those draft stages. But I believe that you have, in working with Jerry, kind of shown that you can bring that kind of leadership process to the school district. And then it will be important, to trust the process, and that's sometimes the hardest thing for us in leadership, is actually to trust the process. But what I heard Jerry say was, if you can kind of give us a chance to trust us, to bring you good work that you would be proud of and proud to own. And for me, from a leader, bringing that process, and allowing us and trusting us to get that done, it makes us feel more accountable to doing a great job with that, if that makes a little bit of sense.
Yeah, so Bill, I will follow up with what you're saying, and I can appreciate the trust the process. My apprehension is that the people within the district that I've been able to witness are very resistant to change.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want that preventing us from really getting to that spot that we need to be now.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're telling me to trust the process, then prove to me that you are going above and beyond, outside of that resistance to change. Because we have been fighting that for 2 years.
Yeah. And I think what you heard, there is this initial process that goes until May. Then the work starts, because that's actually when we start talking about how, kind of what action steps we're going to take to start to move some of the broader goals forward. That's where I think some of those ideas start to come in. Because then it's, what are we actually going to do on the ground, to achieve those goals?
Because right now what I'm hearing is that there's 2 community members involved. There's GK Machine, and then there's the North Marion PTO.
Yeah.
And everybody else is paid by the school district, minus Glenn.
Yeah. Well,
So you're telling me 3 people have outside the school district perspective, and the rest are paid in the school district. That's my issue.
so again, I'm just saying.
I'm just letting you, I'm being
One of the things
honest, I'm
hearing
being
is,
honest.
one of the things we might be hearing is show justice to get, and I know that's not what you're saying. But there is that because when it gets to implementation, if it's not that's when the resistance is even worse. If they weren't involved, if it doesn't feel like it was their work, and I'm talking about my,
Well,
superintendent experience, principal experience, those kinds of things. I've learned, you can't mandate what matters to
Right.
people, there has to be some compelling mission.
right.
You know what I mean, that they're being.
Mhm.
And when they're a part of generating that, then they're more inclined to want to achieve it.
So as an elected official, I'm accountable to the community. And so when you list off 20 people that are on a committee to do school values, and you only have 3 community members on there, you're asking us to trust a lot that you're gonna be able to look at processes that have always been done, and I've heard that terminology, and to be able to put that aside and actually look at a change. Like the one thing that I put on there was embrace change and create an individual success plan for each student. That's my thing. I'm so tired of hearing, we've always done it that way and that works.
And I guess
And so it's that component that I want to make sure that when they're being brought to me, that you can validate that all those different pieces have been thoroughly gone through, and I am not a rubber stamp.
And I think that's what I'm saying, is that what I see is these people's next role is to reach out, to those other constituents in the community and bring together with a pretty clear system, you know what I mean, of being able to do this level of focus group interviews and data collection.
And I think showing us that that's actually being done and not just bringing a document saying, oh, we did it, here's our tally marks. That's gonna be a component to building trust.
Was today's session recorded?
No.
It says it's
It was
recorded.
not.
No, earlier one.
Oh,
Would it be helpful to record those sessions? Or do we cross lines in allowing people to talk freely?
Yeah, I don't know.
I think that would be a good way to go. They're gonna be 4 hours and,
I mean,
We
that
have
would be a
the
way if somebody really wanted to plug in. I would not, I mean, I wouldn't be objected to somebody else, being there.
No,
for the
Glenn, I
board.
think you're doing a great
But
job. It doesn't have anything to do.
Cognizantly, I don't want the board to be heavy-handed on this process, because
Right,
the board already has representation. I mean, we
Right.
have, we're the ultimate arbiters.
Yes.
You can slice it any way you want to.
Mhm.
If we say no, it doesn't go anywhere.
and it's not really bad.
And we, then
Mhm.
we challenge the work that, that is legitimately being done. And I'm not saying, I hear you. I
Yeah,
definitely hear you. I don't know, are there other, have you had this process work where there has been more than one board member present on that? Because
I
it's a
have.
big time, it's a big
I've
time.
never
frame.
had more than 2, but I've had 2 and it's worked well.
Sure.
I've had none and it's worked well, and I've had 1 and it's worked well.
Yeah.
But
But it should be consistently the same person though, correct?
I've had people change just because the number of meetings and the number of hours, and they're already voluntary.
Sure.
But to have a board perspective in every meeting is important. If we could have the same person each time, I think that would work best, but it doesn't have to be that way. And certainly we've got the technology to record the meeting, so we can do that if that would be helpful.
I'm not gonna listen to a pre-recorded meeting that I had no involvement in. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? And that might help me to understand the communication and the discussion around it, but, yeah. I guess because I just keep going back to the other process I was in, where we had 40 people in the room. And we had numerous parents and community members there.
Mhm.
And they represented sports and after-school organizations. And, instead of I feel like we're just checking a few boxes. Oh, look, we have these people there, we're good, And I'm just concerned that we really, I'm concerned we really don't have enough buy-in into this by involving the number of people and, that's being involved. That's my concern, but I can.
And Heidi, one of the things that Bill said is a second layer here. So in that 40-member team, I'm not exactly sure what you folks did to get other points of view. But we're looking at holding, and I recommended about 12 different focus groups throughout the community that bring data in to those 20 people. So when you did your 40 people, were those the voices that were spoken to, or was there outreach from there to bring more data in?
Well, and then they were bringing in, they were bringing in their experience as a parent, as a community member, as whatever organization they were a part of, yeah.
Mhm.
I guess I just meant that because we had such a wide involvement of people in those, I felt like there was a lot of, we had a lot of small group discussions and collaborative work, and I assume that's what you're doing this time too. But,
I think at a minimum, we're gonna have 400 people participate in this process.
is that just because they're filling out a survey?
No,
Or because
it's
they're-
a focus group, interactive, getting ongoing feedback. It's gonna be a minimum of 400 people.
Yeah, the way I understood the focus groups, you talked about what, 6 to 10 sessions, is that correct?
I want to do as many sessions as we're able to do. I'm going to do 2 of them. I'm doing the group and I'm doing you folks on focus sessions. Then I'm relying on the district and the committee members to do more. So the more, the better. I've usually found somewhere between 10 to 15, you find definite trends, and you can keep gathering more data, but the trends tend to hold.
But there was definitely a creative element to not just inviting people to a meeting, like actually going out into the community, organizing someplace where people, there wasn't transportation issues, there was not issues with childcare, so we could facilitate actually talking to people who normally wouldn't be at the table. And I felt like that was a really important component, because their
Right.
children are just as important
Yeah.
in the district as somebody who always shows up to a
Mhm.
meeting, and you know what I mean?
I was thinking about having a warm-up, the ball game, basketball game, wrestling match, whatever it is. It's warm-up time. Come to this table, engage in a focus group, get a ticket for a halftime drawing for gift cards. You
Mhm.
know, those kinds of things, get different groups of people to participate and give.
Well, and I
feedback,
think-
sit down for 15 minutes.
I think that's part of, and Heidi, I don't mean to speak for you, and it's our apprehension. I don't want the same group of parents that are always interconnected into the school being the focus group.
Mhm.
Like, that doesn't serve us.
Yeah.
And so, if you have the same group that's always goes to the same people, that's a problem. Like, we want to go with the change, and that change is painful regardless of where it
It
comes
is.
from. But you have to get to that point.
Mhm.
And I trust, Glenn, that you're gonna do a great job and you're gonna bring it back to me. And I trust the process and I trust our school. Processes are hard. But I just wanna make sure when we're starting out that we're going to the right people and it's not a country club inclusive, exclusive issue.
Yes. And I'm glad that you feel free to express those thoughts and ideas now, because they're important as we start. We haven't done anything yet, but we're going to start doing things. So getting that feedback and ideas, we need it now. And, we can turn on a dime if we have to. I don't want to be conducting a process that you don't feel is inclusive, or that you couldn't really feel as though you could give the input that you wanted to make a difference. I don't want to do that.
So I would also say that, you could choose to look at this as we're not trusting the process, but you could also choose to look at it as, I want to know what every single member of the community who has participated in this has concerns about.
Right.
As sitting on this board,
True.
even if it's 3% of the respondents have had a problem with X, I feel an obligation to understand and know that, because it hasn't been brought to my attention before.
Yeah.
And maybe our goals won't particularly address that, because we do have limited resources, but that's information that I need to understand, and you have it.
Yeah.
Because you collected the data.
Right.
So let's look at it.
Okay.
Put it on our list of things maybe we can't address right now, but we can in the future.
Mhm.
And I just think that's the responsible way to look at that. Data is crap if you don't ever look at it. Why spend the time to do it?
True.
The focus
So-
group report should do that for you.
And that's perfect.
And,
That's
and
what
if
I'm
it
asking for.
doesn't, we'll go to the next level of the raw data that
Perfect.
will be made available.
So it's not just trust. I mean, it might be, I don't know. For me, it's not just trust. I'm just saying that. I mean, that's my obligation and when I'm here is to have open ears.
Okay, Christy, I do not come before you expecting that you trust me. You should not trust me. You don't know anything about me. How do you know that I'm really going to be working in your best interest? What I want you to do is to judge me and the process based on the products that we bring to you. But me, a guy coming here from Bend tonight, you don't know me, I don't know you. We're talking about really important things. I need to earn your trust. And that's what I'm going to try to do.
One more thing, so is it possible to get like a calendar or schedule so we can know that, okay, before the core value group meets or the mission statement group meets, I'd like to know how you're gonna be creating the district mission statement that you're gonna bring to my consideration. So beforehand, can we see that you're planning on having a focus group on this, and this is who will be participating in that group, so that it's not, so that we might say, you know, I would like to know that, or I might say, I don't feel like that's a very inclusive group. I would like you to reach out to these people, or I think that we should be focusing on maybe this instead, just so I can have input. I guess what I'm trying to say is it might be too late by the time you bring me the board, the core value statement, you've already gone through the process. Whereas we might have said, are we sure that this is inclusive enough? Have you talked to this group? Have you talked to this group? Or have we considered these things? It might, is that coming? through
Yes,
very
but
clearly?
I'd like to indicate to you a possibility on how we could work with that.
Please. Yeah.
Again, Diane and I work well in advance of any of our meetings, and I create documents for the meetings that help, they're tutorials to help. Like, for example, on the mission statement, I go through and pick out some of the very best corporate mission statements that I've found in the 10 years I've been working, and some really good school district mission statements. I create documents that explain what a mission statement is and so forth, and what are the best characteristics of good mission statements. I send those to Diane. Diane then puts them together, and we get them to the people who are on the committee. But we don't ever go out, once we've done all the focus group work, put that report together, go out and say, okay, now we're going to do the mission statement. Let's go out and ask people about that. This is a really long, complicated process. A lot of work goes into it. But once we get that initial data, we keep using that for every part of the strategic plan. And what I think we can do is when we get our documents ready for the committee that they'll use to make decisions from, along with the survey data, we'll send that to you in advance. So you will get it just the same time they do, very early. Would that help you?
Yeah, I think so.
And
Yeah.
are you
Yeah.
feeling bad that we may not go out each time we're doing a different part of the strategic plan and do more surveying?
No, I don't want to be, you bring something to us and it would be difficult at that point to say, I'm sorry, I don't feel like this was in depth enough or something.
I want you to though. You can send stuff back to us. That's okay. That's how we get ownership from you. If we bring something forward to when all 7 of you are here and you take a look at it and it's not to your quality level, or we're missing some key points, that's what you're supposed to do. That's your role. That's your purpose. We've just done some of the background work for you. We're trying to make it so that you can really concentrate on what we bring to you and improve it.
So can we and feel free to say no, can we kind of change? Maybe, can you be still a representative and everything? But can Heidi be involved in maybe attending a focus group or listening to a couple?
Sure, and you're.
I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
I know, I'm voluntolding her.
Yeah.
But I mean, I do really trust what you're saying, and I have some of those same pieces. And I think if you can like witness the process and you can say, Crystal, it went really smooth, the data is legit, this is how this piece is, and I can ask like all the inquisitive questions that I typically ask. And you can give me we hit all of the marks that we're all worried about, I would feel much better about it.
We can definitely add people to the focus groups. We're gonna be kind of getting a certain characteristic of
You know
people
what I
in the group, that any board member could be a part of it. And also, we are taking comprehensive notes at each focus group. That can also be made available to you. Who is going to be taking our notes in those focus groups?
Well, it could either be Diane or
Okay.
Jillian. depending on
Okay.
their schedule
So,
and availability.
For the two of you, you're hearing what the board say, they really want to know what goes on in those meetings. And what that means is, from each meeting, we'll probably have 5 or 6 full pages of information, and we can make that available to you. And in some cases, I'll ask either one of them, I really want to make sure we got that quote totally. And so I might ask the person to say it over again, because we will be putting quotes into our focus group reports, key quotes.
And Crystal, I want to commend you on the comment about change, because that was the word that was mentioned the most in the meeting today.
Yeah.
Everyone was saying, we need change, we need change, we need change. There were a couple of staff members who were like, they didn't say everything was fine, but they did say that things are as good as they can be or whatever. And everyone else was like, no. And I think it's when that group understands the magnitude of desire for change, because they're finally in, I'm not the boss in that meeting, their supervisors are not the bosses in that meeting. Everyone's a participant and they're hearing everyone around, and students are saying we need change. And staff are saying we definitely need change. And there may be a staff member too that says, well, I'm not sure we have to change that much. And everyone else is like, yeah, we need change. That's the group that's actually going to make the change happen. Because if it comes from top down, you get what we get now, which is you guys know we need to make a change, but you don't want to do it because we're doing it the same old way. Like the graduation ceremony. How many years did it take us to get the change in the graduation ceremony? And that was clear, we needed to change that. But it came top down. So if we have a large group of people working on it saying, yep, and it's simple to make these changes, we be more inclusive, we create an environment where all students can achieve the higher levels. We create that, everyone understands what that means. Then we have an army of people that can make the change. If we just do it from here, it's going to be a lot harder to do that. But you're right on.
Let me summarize what I heard you say about some changes that we've made based on our discussion. Board members can come to any focus group. We'll get the dates out to you, when they're going to be held, where they're going to be held, and who the key interest group is. We're going to send you all of the documents that we send to our committee in advance so that you can see them. So when I go back to Ben, I'm going to be putting together documents about core values, and you'll receive those. You also want an opportunity to look at raw data. We'll make that available to you. We'll also record our meetings. We'll send you notes from the focus group meetings. And I've asked you in turn to let us use the process through bringing back to you the core values and let you see how that goes and see if you've got enough involvement in that, leading up to that process. Did I miss anything?
Work what? I'm sorry, I just said that.
Okay, then bear with me.
Let me ask one more question.
Sure.
So you're meeting February 8th to formulate your district core values for our consideration. So do we see that at the March meeting, or do we see that, when do we see that then?
When is your next meeting after February 8th? Do you meet once a month?
Twice.
Twice a
I
month?
just saw this.
Okay, what's the next one?
It would be this 14th, right?
Well,
February
The
14th.
second meeting.
do we have a work
Yeah.
session? Is it at a work
That's
session?
a board,
or
the
at
board
a-
meeting is the
board
14th.
Why is it not the seventh? Is that a holiday?
The seventh
Oh, it's the first, yeah, so the second is the 14th, so if we have it, it would be on the 28th.
Well, what we would do is we would put all of our stuff together on the 8th, send it on to you so that you could see it well prior to your next board meeting. And I think that could work for you.
Okay.
Okay, so,
One
yes,
quick thing.
please.
Yeah, I just wanna ask, so you said that if we can come to any of the meetings.
Yes,
Are we gonna be as an spectator or as a?
you can do either. When I conduct meetings, I try to get everybody in the room speaking. And so I would expect that if you have a thought or idea of what's being said, that you would say it. And also, I think it's impressive for people in the focus groups to know that board members are there as well. So please feel free to be a part of it or just to listen if you want to.
So you will let us know when you're having focus, I guess that was my question. Is that something we can go and be a fly on the wall in a focus
Yes.
meeting, so we can kind of get the feeling also? It's one thing for you to come and tell me this is what they felt, but
Mhm.
it's another thing for me to actually go and see the discussion and see.
And
who
that's
participated.
really
And
what I
that's what
think
helps
should be
me to
done.
really then buy into it.
Okay,
You know what I mean?
and so Ginger, what I need to say to you is when we get those focus groups determined place and time, we'll get them to the board as soon as possible so that they can pick and choose which ones they want to go to. And you know, for the 7 of you, it would really be nice if each one of you went to at least one of them.
That's something that I was gonna say, that now with this, I think we should commit to be at each and one of those meetings.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we should commit to at least one focus group so we can have a full understanding of how it works. And then we can make that educated vote from the board perspective. Because that perspective, we don't always wear a board hat. We wear a parent hat, we wear a community hat, we wear several different hats. And in order to make our best judgment, you have to have that perspective.
And what I meant is like, that not everyone to the same meeting, but
No.
at least
Right.
one, yeah, at least one person.
Well, I don't think it breaks public meeting law if we attend a meeting, as long as we're not discussing anything. We
As
can all
long as
be
you're
in the
not
same
making
meeting.
any decisions.
Yeah,
Right.
we're just,
I have to post it.
And I understood you right, that the individual members of the
As an
20
open meeting.
on the strategic, we're gonna actually act as facilitators. in
I
some of those
want
meetings.
them to, because that way, Glenn, we're able to get more done. If we're just relying on Ginger to head them all up and Bill, you know, that's gonna be much more difficult, but I really want them, and I think it creates ownership for them. So that's why I'm doing you folks and them first, so that they can see me model how to do a focus group.
Mhm.
And then those who would feel comfortable would be willing to look at the lists that we have and volunteer, and maybe 2 of them can go together and facilitate.
Sure. Because that's how I understood it from this
Yes.
afternoon, was acting as facilitators, and because they're gonna give a different response, sorry, just
Oh,
like,
no,
they're gonna give a
true.
different response to you than they will to,
Exactly.
you know what I mean, to a teacher or an aide or something like that,
Same thing to a board member.
or to a board member, correct? Yeah, absolutely, so.
Some that you may really be interested in, we're gonna do a middle school student focus group and also a high school student focus group. I think it would be great to be able to go in and listen to what they have to say for the same questions. Do you folks ever have board meetings where you go over the time that is allotted? Some boards do, some don't.
Yeah.
Is a half an hour, if we were to go maybe 15 minutes over today, would that be okay with you? I don't like to do that. I don't
Christie,
like
I
to
will
do
keep
it.
my
Somebody
comments
should-
limited for the real
Still
board meeting.
decaf in here.
Let me see if I can wrap up our meeting in the time that we have. But if not, we'll just go over a little bit. Would you please look at the question that says each board member, Ginger and Bill, will be asked the following question? Take a look at that question. I want to write it down on my notes so I know right from today what you see. It's on your agenda, front page of your agenda.
Page 4.
Over the next 3 years, what is the one improvement program change that you believe could have the greatest positive impact for the district, and why did you select that one? So I want you to think now, 3 years from now, if you could only choose one change, what would you choose and why would you choose it? And I want you to take a little bit of think time and do just a little bit of writing to get that down. And as soon as I see that you have something down that you want to contribute, we'll start. So I'm involving Ginger, I'm involving Bill, and each one of you, and I'm gonna be taking notes on what you say, and I'm also going to have Diane, and I'm gonna give your information to the committee. So they see from the get-go what your thinking is on the most important thing of all. Quick questions from me on that assignment? Okay. And it's written right there, so you can just flip your agenda over if you wanted to write on the back.
Thanks.
I don't want you to look up, but out of 1 year, I just want to say a few things while you're writing. I honestly believe that if you can tell me what it is that you want to have happen, that I can create a process for you that will make it happen. The difficult thing is we can't do everything, but we can do some things. And the key to this work is to figure out what the some most important things are. If we know we can't do everything, let's pick the most important. Let's pick just a few, and let's try to be the best district in the state in those few things that we decide are the most important, to move us from the level of expertise that we have to the next level of improvement. We have to focus on doing a few things really well. What are the most important things? So your job is to figure out what those are. And so from the get-go, you're going to give that information based on what we get tonight to the committee at the next meeting. Your thoughts and ideas tonight will go directly to them as they start their work. And as soon as I see all the eyes up, we'll get started. And this is, and also Bill, this is the part of the meeting that I really like to get as full information as I can about what each person says.
Still working, and that's okay. And I know some of you have been on the board for a long time. This may not be as difficult because there may have been this reoccurring thing that just is not getting implemented that you know so is so important. And others of you may have come on, and as Christie, as you said, it's been a bit confusing. It takes a while to figure the system out, and it may be a little bit more difficult. I know my own role on the State Board of Ed. I thought I was a seasoned veteran. I had conducted so many superintendent school board meetings, and yet sitting on the other side of the table, it took me a good 2 years to figure it out. I think everybody's eyes are up here. Who would like to start us off with the one item, if you could only choose one, and you only get to choose one, that you would want us to be able to accomplish within a 3-year period of time? And secondly, why? Who would like to start us?
I vote Ricardo because I always have to go first.
Okay, being a good loyal soldier, Ricardo, I appreciate it.
Well, I think we constantly have to talk about the opportunity for all of the students
Okay,
and the equity part of it.
yes,
So I think if we really, really want to make a big impact in the community, the dual language will be the best thing that we can bring to this district.
mhm. Okay, and some school districts have dual language schools that are doing well now. Do you see that as a possibility?
I kind of know my peers, and I feel that they have the same feelings that I do.
Yeah, okay. And do you want to give us any other background as to why you feel this is so important? The one most important thing, what's in your heart?
I feel like languages are kind of unique, that brings people, you know, they open up their minds to,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
and people are more like inclusive, like they solve
Mhm.
issues, you know, in a different way that those that don't have that do it. You know? And I'm not saying that those that don't, they don't do it, but it just I feel like is more easy for those people to do it.
Well, thank you very much. Diane, did we get that? Okay, Bill?
Yeah,
Okay.
I tried really hard.
Okay, all righty. Okay. So this is gonna be a tough one, Crystal, for you. What do you come up with?
It actually wasn't that hard. Create an individualized success plan for each student.
And if you look at a number of these documents that I put out for you, you'll find one of the strategic goals very similar to that in almost every one of them. It is a really, really trending idea right now. I would say, Crystal, with parents, probably in the focus groups, the biggest thing that comes up is I want my child to be treated as an individual. I want you to know him by name or her, and I want you to help them work with their strengths and their passions, but at the same time, help them with the areas that they may have some deficiencies in. So it's a really, really good idea, and one that is very, very trending right now. Thank you. Have you been
trying to get that in the door here in the district for a little while?
Yeah.
And with not as much success as you'd like?
Yeah, change is hard.
Hey, this may be the opportunity.
I would say COVID forced the opportunity, but yes.
And did you give us, you mentioned it, did you give us your idea of what the passion is behind that?
I would say the passion is that I have had a child on a 504 who qualified for IEP, and I have had a tag child, and I've
Okay,
had one in the middle. So it's
Okay.
like the different perspectives on
Yeah.
how an individualized plan really creates success for the children. Not everybody is going to college, not everybody's going to trade, not everybody's going to the military.
Mhm.
I feel like we have some really strong forces that need to be broken up, so we look at what's best for the individual.
Thank you very much. Glenn?
I probably broke the rules because I wrote this out before. It's not really one thing. I know you're
Okay.
asking for one thing. It's an improvement in core subjects
The basic,
Mhm.
basic skills.
across all grade levels.
Yeah.
And I know that's a really lofty goal.
Yeah.
But it's. I think the peripherals will come along, but I look at math and like our middle school, look at reading and being off and I really want our kids to have the fundamentals and those life skills that are gonna stick with them,
Mhm.
whatever field, whatever specialty, whatever they go into. If they don't have those cores down, at a young age, and then have them reinforced throughout, middle school and high school, I think it makes it very difficult. It makes it much tougher for them to succeed throughout their life.
So strengthen and enhance K through 12 basic skills, for example, reading, writing, and mathematics. And see, that is definitely a 3-year goal. You would see where you would have to get some resources toward it, some staff development, some curricular, but yeah, that's a perfect example of a strategic goal.
And on
Okay.
the passion side, I don't know, other than, I go back to Ricardo, I want everyone who walks through that schoolroom, or the doors up front, to have the opportunity to be them best, their best selves,
Yes,
to become their best selves,
yes,
not to be pigeonholed or not to be because of where they live or their, who they are, what family they belong to. I want them, each of them, to be able to succeed, and that's really important. So.
For Ginger, myself, and Bill as being superintendents, and I think I can speak for both of them. I always felt driving to work each day, I had an opportunity to help children and young adults reach their potential based on my roles and responsibilities. And now that I've retired and I look back, I couldn't be happier with those kinds of experiences. I think what you're saying is, let's allow these basic skills that allow these kids to have the potential to go wherever they want to go. But they've got to have them first. And they need to be K through 12, like you mentioned. Nice. Okay, Vice Chairman.
Okay, disclaimer, I have not talked to any of the board members about this. I did not talk to Crystal, and so it's really interesting because.
Trust you.
Thank
I
you.
didn't even
And
text you.
I hope I can mirror that trust. So there you go.
Heidi, I have been through not the pandemic, but some really, really, really tough things. And I want this kind of discussion to come up.
Yeah.
If you folks are holding anything back, we've lost what we needed to hear.
No,
By
I
the
guess
way.
the reason I say that is because it's almost verbatim what Crystal was saying and Ricardo too. My passion around this would be that I want to be a destiny. This has been a long ongoing goal for me. I went to school here at North Marion. I graduated in 1970.
I was before you.
And so, I think that sometimes there's been a stigma. I don't know if it's that way anymore, but when I was going here, there was kind of a stigma about going in there.
Mhm.
I mean, it wasn't considered a, maybe Bill can attest to that, I don't know. He went to
Look at him giggle.
So, but I want to be a destination school district.
Okay,
I want people, and to do that, so then that would, that's my passion, but my input here is to have a flexible, responsive system that would meet every individual student where they are and move them in meeting measurable academic gains, or whatever they need. And I think flexible and responsive would be the key word there, because if we need to break the system to make that work, if we need to, these antiquated ideas we have of students in a classroom with the teacher talking to them and, you know, going to, if we need to change meeting times, if we need to have flexible bell schedules, if we need to, you know, mix grade levels, because we have students who are reading at third grade levels and sixth grade levels in the same room. You know, I mean, I would hope that we'd be willing to examine those things and change them if we need to.
okay, well said, thank you very much, that's a voice of experience. Bill?
Well, I'll be a little more targeted, as I've also been at this for a while and have just kind of narrowed my view down to certain subjects. And so I'll say, for the answer to this question, I would like to put together or drive a community group of family leaders to create a model version K-5 of Beaverton's Arco Edie's school
Oh,
here.
yes. Yeah, I
And,
know it well.
drive that to the change and make that really the key focus. It addresses a great many issues. It's a
Yeah.
well-designed program. It's modeled
Mhm.
and functional, and with the correct group of family leaders in this community, which I believe exist,
Yes,
we can pull this off in 3 years. And we have all the inputs we need, and it drives change, it drives things, and even helps Heidi in her goal of being a destination district. But we need
would
that
you
change.
like to see that, Bill, as a public charter school sponsored by the district
Correct.
instead of
Correct.
in-house? Yeah,
Just like our
I'm
communities.
with you.
I'm totally there and done research on it, see the
Yeah.
rules and know why those set of rules work. And will work well in this environment.
And they would come down and help.
We would go there and get their
Yeah,
education.
beautiful
Yeah.
idea, thank
So
you,
that's my answer.
very nice idea. Christie?
To go last.
No,
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 no.
We've got
It's
some
like,
heavy
we-
hitters
I know,
after you.
there are like lots of really good ideas and things that I definitely agree with around the table. I'm a little vague, but also focused on that we need like really accountability metrics that are transparent to the community.
Okay,
And that we visit and hold people accountable to.
okay.
I feel like, I don't know what happened before I got here completely,
Uh-huh.
just from the parent side.
Sure.
Since all of COVID, I mean, it's just been COVID. So, I feel like we have to get back to holding people accountable, holding ourselves accountable for producing top students.
Mhm.
And to do that, we need to revisit our metrics, and they shouldn't look like the state's minimum metrics.
Yeah.
Period.
Okay.
So, I'm tired of looking at what the minimums are. And they need to be posted so that anybody could Google them on our webpage and see what it looks like. That will lead to a destination district, that will lead to change, that will lead to whatever. So we need to not just say, we're gonna measure a couple things and our goals, we need to like have a way to actually do that and have a really firm plan and where that looks.
Very well said, that's a great idea, thank you. Okay, Mrs. Superintendent, what is your?
Well, the easy answer would be all of the above. But along with that same line, the board is spot on about needing change and having a hard time finding it. And it starts at the top.
Yeah.
We have a group of administrators that are trying to keep things moving and are not able to make the change. Part of that is because of the collective bargaining agreement we currently have.
And you're currently in negotiations?
And we're, that, and it's currently, we're starting successor bargaining on that contract now.
Okay.
There's a lot of language in there that prevents us from being able to support teachers
Mhm.
in their ability to transition in positive ways.
Yeah.
So
Are you doing interest-based bargaining?
we tried that and they asked not to do it this year. My goal, if I was going to pick one goal, I think putting us on a course of becoming a destination district would be it.
Okay.
And that would look like not only the things that have been mentioned, individual plan, bilingual dual immersion charter school, producing top students. To produce top students, you have to have a top academic program. To have a top academic program, you have to go out and get it. So we're talking AP Scholars Program or International Baccalaureate Program. The only other school that offers IB is Woodburn, and that's where we lose a lot of high school kids. Because they have that, we don't. They have AP, both Canby and Weston Wilsonville have AP classes, we don't. So we have to have a program in order to do that. To make that program possible, we have to change everything we do. And change is hard. But if we provide support, encouragement, pay for professional development, find the resources, develop the program, it can happen. Where does it start? Kindergarten and grows. So the idea would be one goal that in 3 years, we increase our third grade reading scores and math scores. 20 percentage points or higher. We're currently, so in some grade levels, Woodburn scores higher than me.
Okay.
And others we're close to it.
Okay.
We have the capacity to be much better than that. Why? I'm not quite sure. And I need a team that can figure out why and work on it and make it the priority. And it's been real hard these last 2 years because of COVID have been no ability to make progress.
Yeah.
It just has, no professional development available.
Sure.
No time to work on things, no face-to-face interaction, no workshops with kids. I mean, it's been real hard, but we're coming out of that now.
Mhm.
And now we know how to operate. So the question is, through this process of strategic planning, there is a desire for change.
Yes.
The teachers,
I felt that
yes, they want to change.
from the
So,
group today as well.
yeah, and I don't know that they would necessarily support these ideas yet,
No,
but I know that they would support the outcomes for all students.
yeah.
And the dual language piece at the third grade makes that possible because all the research indicates that a student who is bilingual, whether they are native English, native Spanish speakers, outperform students in college that are monolingual. It's an instant track to the honors program if you're learning 2 languages at the same time. So having that available starting in kindergarten will be able to pull students and families into our school, and that's what we want. And other options being available. But those are ideas that are focused on serving the community that we have and the goal, its desire for better outcomes. And I think everyone's on the same page.
Just think what it would be like if 3 years from now, we were able to implement a dual language immersion school. Something like Arco Iris. And you know that International Baccalaureate comes K through 12. A whole system of International Baccalaureate. That's dreaming really big, but if you're talking about change, boy, oh boy, wouldn't that be fantastic? And so I'll say it to you again. If you tell me exactly what you want, I can create the process for it to happen. And then you have to implement. So my part is getting the right people, you and the 20 members, give them the right process. And then I don't worry about the outcomes. My job is to get the right people and put the process in place. I'll let the outcomes come from that. And I'm getting a sense that we are moving towards something very special down the road here. That is really going to be quite a change for the system. Very, very positive about that. Bill, with your experience, having lived kind of in this area and heard what people say and being in the district for a while and doing tremendous work around the state, I'm very interested in what your key idea is here.
I do want to clarify, Ginger, did you have a preferred language that there was a 20% increase in reading in?
Both.
Both, okay. Just to tie it into some of those other conversations.
Yeah.
Anecdotally, the IB program in Woodburn was a manifestation of the strategic planning process.
Oh, it was.
As was the dual language
Oh, okay.
in the Woodburn School District, so it's both.
It just came.
Those
kind of
both
like
probably
this.
would not have happened had they not been embedded in the strategic
Neat.
plan.
Thank you for that.
So, do you know I can have a mouthful, but this is one sentence, I think. But the strategic result would be that our staff reflects the cultural, racial, and linguistic diversity of our students and our community. And that curriculum and instruction is culturally sustaining and reflects the value we hold in that diversity described above.
Very nice. You know, I want to ask Diane, that was quite a bit. Were you able to get all of that? Okay. Good. So we have a couple of people in the audience. I would like to turn to you and ask, is there anything that you would like to say to the school board? Anything tonight that you would like to mention?
Yeah, you know, with the
Little
strategic,
loud.
yeah. With the strategic planning, what we really want to do is make change, make sure that, you know, we're getting statistics from all students, making sure that they're all involved in this school district and that they feel welcome, most important, right? If we want to start from the bottom, we have to make sure that, you know, our kindergartners, whether they're English speakers, Spanish speakers, whatever speakers, that they make sure that they feel involved and that they feel welcomed here at this district. So I think that's really one of the main goals that I hope this strategic planning team gets to do, and, you know, making sure that North Marion is a welcoming place for all.
And to go off of what Yadira was saying, and also with you, Heidi, is I have been here at North Marion ever since I was a kindergartner. My older sibling graduated from here, so I've always been around here in this community. It's such an amazing school. I might be biased, you know, by saying that, but I would love, like how you were saying, to make this a destination school and want people to come to North Marion, because I mean, obviously I've been here forever. My siblings went here and I think it's an amazing school, but if we can implement more things to have more people want to come to the school and have more programs and have different things that are available for different people, and how, like you were saying, like there may be a mother who works 2 jobs, has her 2 kids and has like this, or there's like transportation, something's an issue, like how can we make her like easier? What can we do things in our district to make, to support our kids and make them strive for the best? Like there's so many amazing programs and different things that we can do and bring to our district to make our district better. Like, what can we do to make our district better? And like I know, I mean, I have some friends who might not be able to graduate this year. And it's really unfortunate because, I mean, COVID was a big issue, but also they weren't getting the help that they needed. I know I also have this problem sometimes, like when I was younger, I couldn't go to my mom or dad and ask them for help with my math or my reading or homework like that, because they didn't get to finish their education, you know? So if we were able to do things to help more students and have more help for them to strive for the best, and how you're saying have like our top performers, like let's make North Marion have amazing students who are passing all their classes, don't need to, you know, get that extra help, but because that's already being available and provided to them at a young age.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you being here at this meeting and your perspective. Diane, you are such an important person in this district. You know more about this district than most of us. If you had your choice, what might you suggest to the board?
A dual language program has been something on my mind for a couple of years. And I always thought it was because we just didn't receive the funding to build that program. But now I think it is time, because Ginger's absolutely right. We lose kids.
Yeah.
Because they, our Russian families and even our Spanish families, they want them to be bilingual, and it starts at kinder.
Yeah.
And we actually have some families who, you know, they're prominently white families. But that's where our global world is gonna be, is bilingual, trilingual.
Yes.
And so even those families want their kids. So that would be my number one.
Well, thank you for that. That's a very good one. You know, we're not gonna let you out of this. Your most important thought, and you're in an important role in the district. You've got history here. What would you like to see? What do you want to change?
Well, I like that everybody said, I love the idea of the destination and the Spanish immersion and, you know, all of those ideas. The thing that I was working on with my plan, which I kind of want to adapt to this, my communications plan, is how to reach all the families, because there are a lot of families who are getting left out. And so I've been trying to come up with ways to reach the family, whether it's WhatsApp or, you know, phone calls or door to door. And it's been difficult because there's so many barriers. So I want to find a way to overcome them, to reach people. And one of the ideas we've been working on is a print newsletter. So people would know a little bit more about what's going on, and like we could even survey them in the newsletter, and they could tell us what they want to do. So I just think this is such an exciting time, actually. But yeah, that's one of the things I really want to do, is to reach everyone. So I feel like there are so many people getting like just left out.
That's right. That's exactly right, and it's in every district. Maybe a little bit more so here. So, you know, there's some trends here that we saw. I'll bet they hold up through the process as we go through it. I very much appreciate your comments. I'm gonna enjoy working with you. I'm sorry that we've gone over in our meeting. Glenn knows one of the things I said today is the sign of good meetings is you start on time, you end on time, and you have good food. We got two of them. We didn't get the last one. But I guess at this point, Ginger, I'm gonna sit down. Any last comments for the board that you wanted to mention? And I'll look forward to seeing you on February 8th.
I just want to thank the board for being.
No, not February 8th, January 18th.
Yeah, I was gonna say, nice try. Yeah. No, I mean, this is great. These are the type of work sessions that I like for everyone. When you're open and freely, we're not worried about protocols, we're not worried about stepping on anybody's toes, that we're being honest and having honest discussions about what needs to happen. I think we make more progress that way, so I appreciate your participation today. It felt great, so thank you.
All right, well, with that, let's adjourn our work session. Does everyone want 5 minutes to take a little break? Okay,
Final break.
so we will reconvene with a regular business meeting in about 5 till 8. 7, we will reconvene the regular part of the business meeting for December 13th. First order is to approve the agenda with one small change. We will have a student report very first off. So if I could have a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda with the student report being added.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Is Richard on?
No, I don't think so. Not seeing anything.
We'll go back to the old background.
Yeah, we'll go back to a voice vote. So if Richard's not on, we'll just go to a voice vote. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. So the agenda is as presented. So first up, I'd like to extend a welcome to Yadira and Ime to come forward and give us a ASB report.
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you. First off, again, thank you guys for all the work that you guys do for our district. I know it's a lot. It's busy, you guys are busy, there's a lot of things to do, so we really appreciate all you guys do. So maybe some of you guys know, maybe some of you guys don't know, but we're not just involved in ASB, we're also involved in multiple other clubs and at North Marion. So to start off, we'll do ASB. So ASB right now, we just finished our Holiday Hope Week, which is with Mr. Elias. So we gather money around the holiday season to provide food and gifts for families during the holiday season. So we just did Thanksgiving, and that was for 7 families. This year we raised almost $1,000, which is the most that we've ever done in ASB for Holiday Hope Week, which is really awesome. And also with ASB, we had done Lavender Week that we spoke to you guys about, where we also did reach $1,000, where it's the most we've ever raised in ASB before. So that's really awesome that our ASB group has been putting in the effort and their time to do something for the community. So something coming up is would be our winter formal, which we're thinking of doing January, at the end of January. Something else that that's coming up, which would be in February, is our Red Out, which is with the American Heart Association. So we'll need to start on that and start planning fundraisers and multiple things. And another thing we're also hoping to do in February is a student conference with Tri-Valley schools and other schools like Wilsonville, Silverton, Lake Ridge, different schools that aren't just in our Tri-Valley, but are different schools, or Jervis as well, like a smaller district. Because obviously it's really important to get the opinions and views of a bigger school and a smaller school. You know, when we went to the first conference we had with Molalla High School, it was really awesome because we learned about Lavender Week, and that's something that we were able to implement here at North Marion, which we have never done. So it'd be awesome to get ideas from other schools and other ASB groups. So that's what we're planning to do in February. So then for MECHA, we are doing fundraisers right now, and we have been doing the Giving Tree, and that's with the community. And then another thing that is also coming up would be the Baile Folklorico, which is a traditional dance from Mexico, and those practices and things should be starting up soon. Something else that MECHA had also done was fundraising with Millburn's Haunted Manor, and I think it was about $5,000? $500 something dollars that we raised from this doing that fundraiser with the Haunted Manor. And then something else we are also planning on doing for Key Club is we're doing a fundraiser right now. We're doing candy grams. Something else we also need to get ready for is DCON, which is an event that is usually Pacific Northwest event, but just due to COVID, each state is doing their own conference. So we're going to be doing, I believe it's in February or around February, but we just need to start fundraising for that. I don't think Key Club is doing anything else, but we're pretty busy. So I don't know if you want to.
And then on behalf of FBLA, which are Future Business Leaders of America, we just had a campus tour over at Oregon State, which was really fun. We got to tour the business school over there just to get the idea of how, business goes. And if any one of us who are in FBA are interested of going over there, we had the opportunity to check that out. On behalf of Yearbook, we've just about finished the fall pages right now. We're just making the last finishing touches, making sure that all of our spelling is correct, that we make sure we've captured almost all students in the book. So that's pretty awesome. Right now, we're moving on to our winter pages, which includes winter sports and our winter activities, which are winter formal, read out, and such. And then on behalf of NHS, which is National Art Honor Society, they've partnered up with the PTO and have created some stickers that will be later on sent out to our students and available for our community to have. That was just kind of our club report from a student. So do you guys have any questions for us?
I do have a question. On Key Club, how do you order those candy grab things? Because I was thinking about ordering some for some students that I know, but I didn't see a way that a parent could order them or a community member. Is that an option?
So we would usually like also deliver them to the primary, intermediate, middle school. We aren't able to because we deliver to the classroom, so we're just leaving them at the front office, and they would just have to go and pick them up. If you were wanting to deliver or wanting to give one to someone, you could definitely just talk to us later or send us an email, and then we could get you a form to fill out. Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, we'd love any more questions, or if you had any questions about a certain.
Just a question, your FBLA trip, I heard had a little bit of excitement on the way down.
Yeah, things happen, we had to make sure that, all of our students were safe. So we, an accident happened between the bus driver. So, we had to put our students first. We evacuated the bus. Thankfully, we were able to get a bus driver from Canby to come down over to Corvallis and bring us back home. Thankfully, everyone was able to be taken care of, after our field trip. So that's one thing we're very grateful for.
When are the stickers gonna be available?
The stickers, I'm not 100% sure. I'm sure they'll be able to be out by February, which is usually the time that it's been out in years prior. Right now, our students and you guys are eligible to go ahead and vote. There are QR codes posted around the school. And it's a simple Google form where you can pick the sticker designs.
And what are you gonna do for decon fundraising? Do you know yet?
So one thing that we have been doing this entire year, which has been actually really good, is we've been doing bottle fundraisers. So we've done it with the bottle drop off with the green bags. I know earlier in the year and last year we were just asking people if you have bottles, bring them. And I remember we had maybe a truck full, not a truck full, but a moving, a U-Haul full of bottles. So we've definitely been having a lot of, obviously those 10 cents add up really quick. So that's one thing that has kept us going. And obviously with our candy grams, that as well is also bringing in funds for us to go to decon. But obviously when we get closer to, we're obviously going to be continuing to do more fundraisers for that. Because we're going to have to be staying at the hotel that's up in Portland for I believe 3 days and 2 nights.
If you know how much you're trying to raise, let me know so we can share that information out.
Oh, yeah.
Totally.
Great, anybody else? Great job on the Thanksgiving, great job on the lavender. Those are really big numbers. That's very impressive. So thank you for your respective clubs spearheading those. Those are great. That's really good. Really appreciate it. So yeah, thanks for coming and coming and keeping us up to date on what you got going.
Yeah, and we would love your guys' involvement as well, or if you guys ever have any questions or want to help out with anything, we would love that. That'd be awesome. Yeah. Thank you guys.
All right,
Thank you.
So moving along to public comments, Diane said we didn't have any public comments and I don't see any more, so we will forego those on the state education update or OSBA updates. I don't have anything to add to those. I just wanted to give you guys just a brief update. We've mostly covered this, but I wanted to thank everybody for attending that strategic planning meeting today. I wanted to thank you, Dara, for serving on that. Your input's very valuable. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you taking the time. It's going to be hours of time through this process, but having your involvement is very important, and everybody involved. I would like to, from this board, acknowledge the members of the community who are here, the members of business who are taking their time and their talent to come and serve on that, and really provide direction for the district for the next next few years ahead. So and I would also encourage you guys to be engaged. I chatted, so if somebody wants to attend those meetings, you're more than welcome. I don't want to keep anybody away who wants to engage, especially, and on the focus groups. Obviously, if you guys want to come and fit in, or just listen, or as well as engage, I think there'd be opportunity to engage as well too. I know when we've done stuff before with the SAA, having that engagement, people appreciate that. They appreciate seeing board members who are there listening and gathering facts and collecting information. So I had one other thing that's probably more related to you, but we had an issue where for the test to stay, we had run into not having enough tests available. I just got word today, actually.
You're talking COVID tests.
COVID test. So one of the new guidelines is test to stay. So we are actively testing those students. Is it students or staff? Both. Who would need to test in order to stay put. We ran into a scenario of not having tests available. We were getting really close to running out. Those have been replenished. It sounds like with enough stock to see us through the end of this year and see us into the beginning of next year. So that's a good sign, because that
January next year?
And depending on how many we use, could take us to February.
Yeah. So that replenishment is good. That's good news, because that program allows bodies in the seats where they need to be, you know what I mean, as much as we possibly can. So acknowledging the overnight field trip, that is just a matter of acknowledging it because that is in state. That will be already happened, December 10th and 11th for Coos Bay. And then this is actually just a preview, so we will be getting regular updates or semi-regular updates on our equity committee starting next month. So that's kind of your cue that we'll be getting some information from you.
Thank you.
You bet. So on our agenda, moving along to item 6, which is the consent agenda, I would entertain a motion. You guys have read through minutes and those items.
I'll move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Item number 7. I think, Linda, are you there?
I am. Mm-hmm.
A brief update for us, so I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, it will be brief. There's really no change from last month, maybe a little less in percentage, but our taxes have been coming in just as I budgeted. So I'm really happy about that. Any questions for me?
Anything to add on the last budget forecast?
Say that again.
Have anything to add with your tea leaves on the last budget forecast?
Well, it was good news for the state, but we are all still trying to figure out if our enrollment is going to come back or if this is the new normal for those of us that have lost enrollment, and plenty of districts did in this state. So we're optimistic that the funding will remain there. It's just how will it be split up?
Anybody else have any questions for Linda? Thank you, Linda, much appreciated, and thanks for your prognostication. I know it's difficult.
You're welcome.
We have two items for board action. We have, per the language in the contract, we have a request to reimburse Superintendent Rillinger for contract PTO days that were not used in 2020-21. And I would entertain a motion. There's a bit of background on that. But I would entertain a motion to move forward with that.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Are we paying those out or are we rolling them?
I don't believe we had the option to roll them. They were to be paid out.
They were to be. Right, we rolled them over already. We rolled them
Yeah.
over.
Okay,
this is-
that's what I thought. So now it's, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And that language specifically is in the contract. as to-
Okay,
as to
that's
how
what
we
I was
do
double
those,
checking
so.
on. So, can we do them separately or do you want them to do them both?
I think we should do them separately.
I'll make a motion that we approve the request for superintendent contract PTO not used in 2020-2021 per the contract to be paid out.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Second item there is approval of additional compensation for Linda. She has been doing extra duty for the months of October, November, and now into December. And that has come, she's been putting on quite a few extra hours as we were down a person. And so I wanted to bring that to your attention and motion for an approval to compensate her for those extra hours she's being worked.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. I think that's probably all.
No work
Things
session
in-
this month, right?
What's that?
No work session this month, right?
No work session this month. We are off now until- we are off now until January. Again, if somebody wants to attend some of those strategic planning meetings, please let me know. I can forward emails if you want me to, if somebody wants to attend. Yeah, and it can be floating, like if you want to attend one and not the next, I know it's a time commitment to go to them, but Diane, I had a question for you on board self-evaluation. I have done nothing on that. So when can I get information out in terms of our metric and our scoring procedure on that?
Typically, we start that in January,
Okay, so
so.
just a warning to look for that coming up here, probably.
I'm looking into a Google form
Okay.
that where the typical questions you always ask.
Mhm.
It'd be on the form and then it records the responses for you. And I got that idea from another board secretary.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah, that would be very easy to do.
I don't
Yeah,
have to
so you
transcribe.
guys get the
Right.
form and then it goes
Yeah,
to
just a
a
Google
spreadsheet.
form, yeah,
Cool, okay.
I do that too, and I don't know how to do it.
Just put awesome for
Even I can make those.
just check awesome for everyone.
I know this isn't on the agenda. Do you have anything to report on your curriculum?
Yeah, I'll give you like a 2-minute overview. So we have been working with the curriculum committee, which is very dedicated to doing like a well-rounded job. They split us up into pre-K, which are looking at a couple different kind of curriculum. So the Multnomah ESD off the top of my head, so just keep that in mind. I think it was, is that MESD, Multnomah ESD? They did a caravan, which is they brought in a bunch of curriculum and then the teachers were able to look and, it was all virtual, I believe. And they were able to look at it. And then Willamette ESD is doing a secondary one to see what they have, because I was interested in what Willamette ESD, since they're kind of our partner, picked. But so they will do another caravan. So right now I'm working with a great group from the high school, and I believe maybe some of the middle school, on rewriting our rubric for our curriculum. So there's an equity piece. and some cultural pieces in there. And then there is updating language, because they carbon copied the one from social studies, which I think actually went well, but making it to be applicable to English language learning or language arts learning, whatever. And the big one was, is as we're looking at curriculum, I did bring up, like, how does this fit into dual language immersion and having all those other components be readily available. So that's my 2-minute, we're working on it.
Cool, thank you.
Asking
Yeah,
good
much
questions,
appreciated.
that's good.
Bill, do you have anything, you're probably more plugged into political stuff, is there anything on the horizon for the session next? What do we have, a 1 month
The,
session in
Yeah,
February?
there's a short session actually started today.
Yeah,
And
but that's very
is-
short,
but
right?
There is a bill that in the short session to redo the mandatory board training is back. That's
Okay.
the only thing that involves education.
Okay.
So,
Just
we'll see.
because of one district.
That one district is a major problem, but yeah, well, there's also Greater Albany.
All right, with that, I'll digress. Thank you. Any other business that needs to come before us? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. No?
You don't need a motion, you hit the end of the agenda.
All right.
so you're good.
Then we are done. We'll gavel down. I'm used to planning commission